December 21st, 1939, a forest in eastern Finland. The temperature is 40 degrees below zero, the kind of cold that turns your breath into ice crystals before it leaves your mouth. The kind of cold that kills you if you stand still too long. In a snow pit, buried waist deep in powder, a man sits motionless. He's been there since before dawn. 7 hours, not moving, barely breathing. His rifle, a simple bolt action mostly nagant with no scope, rests against his shoulder, iron sights only. And somewhere out there, past the tree line, 500 meters away, Soviet soldiers are moving. They don't know he's watching. They won't know until it's too late. By the end of this single day, 25 of them will be dead, shot by a man they've never seen, a man they're starting to call a ghost. The Finns call him Simo. The Soviets call him something else. Belaya Smert, the White Death, November 30th, 1939. The Soviet Union, under Joseph Stalin, launches a full-scale invasion of Finland. The reason? Territory. Stalin wants a buffer zone to protect Leningrad. He demands Finland cede land along the border. Finland refuses. So Stalin decides to take it by force. He sends 750,000 soldiers across the border. Tanks, artillery, aircraft. The entire weight of the Red Army, fresh off purges that killed most of its experienced officers. But still massive. Still terrifying. Finland has 300,000 soldiers, a handful of tanks, just over 100 aircraft. On paper, this isn't a war. It's a massacre waiting to happen. The international press gives Finland days, maybe a week. Stalin himself expects to be in Helsinki by Christmas. But Stalin doesn't know about the forest. He doesn't know about the cold. And he doesn't know about the farmers. Simo Häyhä is 34 years old, 5 feet tall. A farmer from the village of Rautjärvi in southeastern Finland, near the Soviet border. He's spent his entire life in these woods, hunting, skiing, shooting. When he was 20, he did his mandatory military service, got promoted to corporal, and went home. For the next 14 years, he's lived quietly, farming, competing in local shooting competitions, winning most of them. He's not a soldier, not really. But when the call comes, when Finland mobilizes every man who can hold a rifle, Simo reports to the 6th Company of Infantry Regiment 34, and he brings his gun. Not a military issue weapon, his own rifle. An old Finnish modified Mosin Nagant M2830, serial number 35281, the one he's been shooting since his service days, the one he knows better than his own hands. The officers let him keep it. They don't know yet what a decision that is. The Winter War is unlike anything the world has seen. The Soviets march in columns, thousands of men packed together on roads, because the forests are too dense, too frozen, too hostile. They're dressed in brown and green uniforms. No winter camouflage, no skis. Many of them don't even know how to ski. They're city boys, conscripts from Moscow and Leningrad, thrown into a frozen hell they can't navigate. The Finns, on the other hand, were born in this hell. They know every tree, every ridge, every frozen lake, and they're dressed head to toe in white. When a Finnish soldier lies down in the snow, he disappears. The Soviets call it magic. The Finns call it survival. And the tactic is simple. Let the Soviets march down the roads, then hit them from the trees, cut them off, surround them, freeze them, starve them, and shoot them, one by one. That's where Simo comes in. Simo Häyhä is assigned to the Kolar front, a narrow strip of forest and frozen lakes where the Soviets are trying to push through. His job is sniper. His orders are clear. Kill as many as you can. So he does. He digs a snow pit, low to the ground, invisible. He wears white. He packs snow in front of him to hide muzzle flash. He keeps snow in his mouth so his breath doesn't steam in the cold and give away his position. And then he waits, hours, sometimes the entire day, motionless. The cold doesn't bother him. He's used to it. Hunting in these woods taught him patience, taught him stillness, taught him how to read distance without a rangefinder, how to judge wind without instruments. The Soviets walk into his sights like deer, iron sights, no scope. This is what makes Simo different. Most snipers use telescopic sights. They're more accurate at long range, but Simo refuses them. Why? 3 reasons. First, scopes fog up in the cold. At 40 below, the lenses ice over, useless. Second, scopes reflect light. A single glint of sunlight off glass, and your position is compromised. Soviet counter-snipers are hunting for that glint. Third, scopes force you to raise your head. With iron sights, Simo can keep his profile low, almost flat to the ground, harder to spot, harder to kill. So he shoots the old-fashioned way, lining up the front and rear sights, judging distance by eye, holding his breath, squeezing the trigger, and every time he squeezes, someone dies. December 1939. The reports start coming in. Unbelievable reports. A single sniper operating near Kolar has killed 51 Soviet soldiers in 3 days. His commanding officers don't believe it, so they send an observer, an official witness to verify the count. The observer watches Simo work, watches him sit in the snow for hours, watches him fire, watches Soviet soldiers drop one after another, and never see where the shot came from. The count is real. By mid-December, Simo has over 200 confirmed kills. Confirmed, meaning verified by witnesses, meaning bodies counted. And that's just with the rifle. He's also carrying a Suomi KP-31 submachine gun for close quarters work. Those kills don't even get counted in his official tally. The legend is growing, and the Soviets are starting to panic. The Red Army has never faced anything like this. They're used to fighting in open fields, in cities, in terrain where they can see the enemy. But here, in the Finnish forests, the enemy is invisible. And deadliest of all is the one they start calling Belaya Smert, the White Death. Soviet soldiers refuse to move in the areas where he operates. Officers threaten them. Commissars shoot deserters. But the fear is too deep, because the White Death doesn't miss. He doesn't reveal his position. He doesn't give you a chance. You're walking through the snow. You're talking to your comrade. And then your comrade's head snaps back, and he's dead before he hits the ground. No sound. No warning. Just death from nowhere. The Soviets send counter-sniper teams to hunt Simo. Entire squads. Trained marksmen with scoped rifles. Orders to find the White Death and kill him. They don't come back. The Soviets try artillery. They locate where they think Simo is operating, and they shell the entire forest. Hundreds of rounds, turning the snow into a cratered wasteland. Simo moves before the shells land. He knows the forest too well. He's already in a different position, watching the Soviets regroup, lining up his next shot. On December 21st, 1939, Simo Häyhä achieves his highest single-day kill count. 25 confirmed kills in one day, at temperatures so cold that metal burns skin on contact, at ranges up to 500 meters, with iron sights. 25 men who woke up that morning and thought they'd live to see tomorrow. They didn't. And Simo goes back to his snow pit the next day and does it again. By By January 1940, the Finnish press has caught on. They're calling him a hero. The government is watching, and his own unit treats him like he's something more than human. But Simo doesn't talk about it, doesn't brag, doesn't keep count for himself. When asked how many he's killed, he shrugs, says he doesn't know, says he's just doing his job. His comrades keep count for him. They document every kill they witness, and by February, the number is over 400. Some estimates put it closer to 500. In less than 100 days of fighting, Simo Häyhä has killed more enemy soldiers than any sniper in recorded history. And he's done it with a rifle that doesn't even have a scope. February 17th, 1940. The Finnish government officially declares Simo Häyhä a national hero. He's promoted to junior sergeant. He's awarded the Collar Cross, one of Finland's highest military honours. And he's given a gift, a custom-made rifle, a beautiful Sako M2830, built specifically for him by a Swedish businessman who heard about his exploits. It's an honour most soldiers never receive. Simo accepts it, thanks them, and then goes back to the snow pit. Because the war isn't over, and the Soviets are learning. They're bringing in better officers, more firepower. They're adapting to the winter. And as February turns to March, the Finnish advantage is slipping. The Soviets are pushing harder. The front at Kolar is under constant assault. Simo is there, fighting not as a sniper now, but as a regular infantryman, because there are too many Soviets and not enough Finns. March 6th, 1940. A Soviet offensive hits Kolar. Thousands of soldiers, artillery barrages. The Finns are outnumbered 10-1. Simo is in the trenches, firing his rifle, killing Russians as fast as he can load. He's already killed a dozen that day. And then it happens. An explosive bullet. A Soviet soldier fires, and the round hits Simo in the lower left jaw. The bullet detonates. Half his face is gone, jaw shattered, teeth blown out, cheek ripped open. He goes down. His comrades think he's dead. They pull him out of the trench and lay him with the other bodies because there's no time to check. The fighting is too intense, but then someone notices. His leg twitches. They check his pulse. He's alive. Barely. They drag him to a field hospital, and the doctors look at his face and shake their heads. They don't think he'll make it through the night. Simo Häyhä doesn't die. He slips into a coma. For 7 days, he's unconscious, hovering between life and death. And on March 13th, 1940, he wakes up. The same day, the Winter War ends. Finland and the Soviet Union sign a peace treaty. Finland cedes territory, the buffer zone Stalin wanted. But the country survives, independent, unconquered. And Simo wakes up to find the war is over. His face is destroyed. He'll carry the scars for the rest of his life. His jaw is rebuilt, but it's never the same. He can't speak clearly. He can't eat solid food for months. But he's alive. And Finland is alive. The cost? Around 25,000 Finnish soldiers dead. But the Soviets lost somewhere between 130,000 and 250,000 men. The exact number is still debated. What's not debated is this. The Soviet Union invaded Finland, expecting an easy victory. They got a frozen nightmare. The world took notice. The Winter War humiliated Stalin. It exposed the weaknesses of the Red Army, weaknesses that Hitler would later exploit when he invaded the Soviet Union in 1941. And at the heart of Finland's resistance was a farmer with a rifle, a man who killed more enemy soldiers in 100 days than most soldiers kill in an entire war, a man who became a symbol of Finnish determination, of refusing to surrender, of fighting for your home no matter the odds. But Simo Häyhä doesn't see himself as a symbol. When the war ends, he goes home, back to his farm, back to the quiet life. He never talks about the war, never brags about his kills, never seeks fame. When journalists ask him for interviews, he declines. When historians come looking for stories, he gives them nothing. For 60 years, Simo lives a quiet life. He hunts, he farms, he attends veterans gatherings, but he doesn't make speeches, doesn't tell war stories. He's just an old man with a scarred face and a past he doesn't discuss. In 1997, a Finnish military historian named Tapio Saarelainen tracks him down, convinces him to sit for interviews, and over the next 5 years, Simo tells his story, not for glory, not for fame, just so the record is straight. Saarelainen publishes a book in 2016 called The White Sniper, and in it, he reveals details that have never been public, including a private memoir Simo kept, discovered in 2017 after his death. In that memoir, Simo writes a single line at the top of a page. This is my sin list. And then he estimates the number of men he killed, around 500, not 400, not 600, 500. Men with families, men with lives, men who were following orders just like he was. Simo calls it a sin list, not a kill count, not a victory tally, a sin, because he knows what he did. He knows that every trigger pull ended a life, and he carries that weight for the rest of his days. In 2001, a year before he dies, a journalist asks him a question. Do you regret it? Do you feel remorse for killing so many people? Simo looks at the journalist, his scarred face unreadable, and he says this: I did what I was told to do, as well as I could. There would be no Finland if others hadn't done the same. He's not dodging the question. He's answering it honestly. He doesn't celebrate the killing, but he doesn't apologize for it either. Because the alternative was letting his country be conquered, letting his people be enslaved, and that wasn't an option. Simo Häyhä dies on April 1st, 2002. He's 96 years old. He lived longer than almost any soldier from that war, longer than the men he killed, longer than most of the men who fought beside him. He dies in his bed, in his home, in the country he helped save, and Finland mourns. Because Simo wasn't just a sniper. He was proof that you don't need to be big to be deadly. You don't need advanced weapons to win. You just need courage and patience and an unbreakable will to survive. Here's what makes Simo's story different from most war heroes. He didn't want to be a hero. He didn't enlist looking for glory. He was drafted, forced into service. And when the service was over, he went home and never looked back. He didn't write a memoir to sell books. He didn't tour the country giving speeches. He didn't capitalize on his fame. He just wanted to be left alone. But history wouldn't let him go, because what he did was too extraordinary to ignore. 505 confirmed kills. Some sources say 542. His own memoir says around 500. The exact number doesn't matter. What matters is this: in the history of modern warfare, no sniper has ever matched what Simo Häyhä did in those 100 days. Not in Vietnam, not in Iraq, not in Afghanistan. The closest anyone has come is around 350 kills, and that's over years of combat. Simo did 503 months in sub-zero temperatures with iron sights. That's not just skill, that's something else entirely. Some people try to mythologize him. They call him a superhero, a legend, a ghost. But Simo was human. He got cold. He got tired. He got scared. What separated him from everyone else wasn't some supernatural ability. It was discipline. He grew up in those forests. He knew them. He trained himself to sit still for hours, to control his breathing, to judge distance by eye. And when the moment came, when his country needed him, all that discipline turned into something lethal. The Soviets sent their best snipers after him, men with better rifles, better scopes, better training, and Simo killed them because they didn't know the forest, they didn't know the cold, and they underestimated the farmer with iron sights. There's another detail most people don't know. Simo's rifle, the M2830, had a quirk. The barrel was slightly bent, not much. Just enough that if you looked down the bore, you'd see it wasn't perfectly straight. Most marksmen would reject a rifle like that. But Simo knew his rifle. He knew exactly how that bend affected his shots. He compensated for it instinctively, and that rifle became an extension of his body. When you fire a rifle hundreds of times, thousands of times, you stop thinking about mechanics. You just know. You feel when the shot is right. And for Simo, every shot felt right. The Soviets tried everything to kill him. Counter-snipers, artillery strikes, even propaganda. They spread rumors that the White Death was already dead, hoping to demoralize the Finns. Didn't work, because every day, more Soviet soldiers died, and every night, the survivors whispered about the ghost in the trees, the one you never see, the one who never misses. That psychological warfare, unintended as it was, did as much damage as the bullets. Soviet morale collapsed in the sectors where Simo operated. Officers couldn't get their men to advance. Entire companies refused orders, because advancing meant walking into the White Death sites, and nobody wanted to be next. When Simo was shot on March 6th, the bullet that hit him was an explosive round, designed to detonate on impact, used for anti-material purposes, for destroying equipment. But the Soviets were using them on people, because standard bullets weren't stopping the Finns. The round that hit Simo wasn't aimed at him specifically. It was a random shot, a Soviet soldier firing blindly into the Finnish lines, and it just happened to find Simo. If it had hit him in the chest, he'd have died instantly, but it hit his jaw, and somehow, despite half his face being blown off, despite losing consciousness, despite being left for dead, he survived. The doctors who treated him said it was a miracle. Simo said it was luck. Bad luck for getting shot. Good luck for surviving. After the war, Simo never fired a gun in anger again. He hunted, but that was different. That was for food, for tradition. He never competed in shooting competitions again, never showed off his skills. When people asked him to demonstrate his marksmanship, he declined. The war was over. That part of his life was closed. He didn't need to prove anything, didn't want to prove anything. He just wanted peace. And for 62 years, he got it. But the story doesn't end with Simo. It ends with what he represents. Because Simo Häyhä is the embodiment of an idea. The idea that when your back is against the wall, when the odds are impossible, when the world expects you to lose, you fight anyway. You fight with everything you have. You fight smart. You fight dirty if you have to. And you don't give up. Finland was outnumbered, outgunned, and out-resourced. They should have lost the Winter War in a week, but they didn't. Because they had men like Simo, Men who refused to surrender. Men who turned their knowledge of the land into a weapon. Men who made the invaders pay for every inch of ground. And in the end, Finland survived. Not unscathed. They lost territory. They lost thousands of soldiers. But they kept their independence. And that's what matters. The Soviets learned a hard lesson in Finland. They learned that size doesn't guarantee victory. That technology doesn't win wars on its own. That the will to fight, the knowledge of the terrain, and the determination to defend your home are worth more than 1,000,000 soldiers. Hitler should have paid attention. When he invaded the Soviet Union in 1941, he walked into the same trap. Underestimated the land, underestimated the winter, underestimated the will of the people, and it cost him everything. The Winter War was a preview. Simo Häyhä was the opening act, and the world didn't learn. Maybe that's the real lesson, that history keeps repeating because we forget. We forget that farmers can be warriors, that small countries can resist empires, that a single man in the right place at the right time with the right skills can change the course of a war. If this story moved you, if it reminded you that courage doesn't come from size or strength, but from the refusal to quit, then share this. Let people know that the deadliest sniper in history wasn't a special forces operator with cutting-edge technology. He was a farmer with an old rifle and iron sights, and he did what needed to be done. Subscribe if you want more stories like this. Stories about people who did the impossible, who stood when everyone said they should run, who fought when everyone said they should surrender. Drop a comment and tell us where you're watching from. And if you know a veteran, tell us their name. Let's honor the people who fought for something bigger than themselves. Simo Häyhä died in 2002, but his legacy lives on. Because every time someone faces impossible odds and refuses to back down, they're channeling the spirit of the White Death. The man who proved that one person, in the right circumstances, can be worth an army.